Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the live radar. Then we'll have a look at the GFS. We'll also have a look at the GM, the ECMWF, the GFS Ensembles, and the UKMO Operational Run. We'll also have a look at some information on the stratosphere as well, as that is going to be influence our weather over the next few weeks. And for any cold lovers out there, it does look like the stratosphere being above average in terms of its wind speeds is now looking like it could be affecting the jet stream, turning things a lot wetter, windier, and probably milder in from the west. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. It does look like now, after Monday, when we do see the last sort of potential for some colder conditions, it does look like it will be going a lot wetter and milder, and windier as well. We could be seeing a number of named storms potentially with this pattern of very westerly dominated, with the tropospheric polar vortex positioning itself over Greenland, similar to what we saw in early 2020 when we saw multiple named storms. I don't suspect it will be as bad as that. However, it does look like it will be a generally westerly theme. It does look like the other models that yesterday were going for potentially that high pressure towards Scandinavia holding on have now sort of diminished. Both the GM and the ECMWF, which were going for that pattern, or at least holding that pattern, are now sort of backing off from that and are following the GFS. Very interestingly, again, the GFS saw this a couple of days before the other models. So props to the GFS once again, because it did forecast the recent cold spell we had with Storm Arwen a few days before the other models caught onto it. But if we do have a look at the live radar at the moment, you can see there is actually still some snow around. Over Scotland, at the moment, we do have some winteriness. Overnight last night, we did see a smattering of snow across parts of the Midlands into central southern England. I've seen images from early in the morning, from snow even in Heathrow. But it was just a few showers, didn't really accumulate that much. Most areas, it sort of slowly melted away through the day as temperatures were about 2 or 3 degrees today. We still have quite a lot of cold air around, so we could still be seeing a bit of a frost tonight, especially in the east before the weather front arrives. And on its leading edge, we could see some snow. But it is pretty unlikely that it will accumulate anything, as even if it did start to sort of build up a little bit, milder air will undercut eventually. So by morning, it will just be rain, and probably in many western areas it would have stopped by the morning and would have washed any snowfall away. So there could be some leading edge snowfall over the course of this evening into early hours of the morning, but it will turn all to rain with a milder sector moving in over the next couple days. So if we do have a look at the GFS run, have a look at what we're seeing in the longer term. You can see at the moment we've had cold northerly winds, but it's going to be shifted away by a westerly wind, a milder sector pushing through. But we also do have some colder air returning for the weekend. We could see some snow maybe through Sunday and Monday before we start to see proper westerly winds start to move in. Now, if we do have a look at the 500 HPA pressure charts, you can see there is that high pressure towards Scandinavia, but it doesn't come to anything. We see this quite significant low pressure system move through next Wednesday, and we thought on some of the models that would drop into Europe and we'd pull in a bit of an easterly flow. But you can see the tropospheric polar vortex, this dark purples, very low pressure and very cold air towards northern Canada and Greenland, combining from moist air in from the North Atlantic. That's spinning up these lows, and as we head through, you just see that transfers over Iceland, and we just stay with westerly winds. See these low pressure systems really spinning up, and that's where we could see the potential for named storms. You can just see high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west, generally west to southwesterly winds. Now there is the potential for being a bit of a high pressure towards Scandinavia at the end of the run, but the tropospheric polar vortex is still very much there, coupling up with the stratosphere, bringing much milder, wetter and windier conditions. Now, it won't be mild for all, especially over Scotland. It may stay around average or just below average, as we do have colder sectors moving through at times, which is going to bring some chillier air and maybe some snow over high ground. But for most areas, it's going to be generally temperatures around average, maybe a touch above average, with wet and windy conditions, and of course the potential for named storms. Now, if we do have a look at the stratosphere, We'll go through this and then we'll have a look at the NAO and the AO, show you why we're seeing these flat westerly winds. You can see over the course of the early part or mid part of autumn through most of October into early November, we had quite a weak stratosphere. That stratosphere, in terms of the polar vortex, in terms of the westerly winds, directly above the North Pole. The black line is the average for the time of year. And you can see during early November, it did go above average. If you have a look at the red dotted line, that is what we saw last year. And you can see the sun stratospheric warming we saw through early January, which caused the cold spell. Bitterly cold easterly winds we had through early February. But at the moment, winds are well above average. Not at sort of record levels, but above average. But we have seen sort of a decoupling where the stratosphere is not causing the troposphere to increase its westerly winds, not sort of moving together, which they normally do. But they can decouple like they have so far through November and over the next few days, of course. However, you can see the stratospheric polar vortex is going to increase its wind speeds, potentially even up to record levels on some of these ensemble runs. But coming with that, the stratosphere does look like it's going to couple with the troposphere, and that is why we're going to be seeing westerly winds really power up, as all the way through the atmosphere, the westerly winds are going to be dominating. Whereas recently, they've been dominating at the top of the stratosphere and the top of the atmosphere, but towards surface level, they haven't had too much of an impact. But that is looking like it will change. So it's put a bit of a spanner in the works, as we always did think that we were going to have some cold weather towards the early part of winter. We've had some, but the stratosphere looks like it's really going to be taking over. Remember, it is only one of our climate drivers, but it looks like it's going to be really taking over the next few weeks. Now, if we also have a look at these charts of the zonal winds throughout the atmosphere, you can see reds are westerly winds and purples and blues are easterly winds. You can see right here towards the first couple of days of December, generally things are westerly winds, only around 12 meters per second, but that of course is what is expected at the surface level. You can see right to the top of the atmosphere, very, very strong westerly winds, and you can see they're even going to be getting stronger towards the middle of December. But the important thing is to have a look at the right chart, which is the anomaly, which is showing what it is compared to average, because just showing what its speeds are, it's not going to really be showing anything to anyone who doesn't know this particularly well. You can see, though, on the anomaly chart, most of it is red. Up in the stratosphere, a lot of reds, and towards the middle part of December, a lot of reds as well. And towards the surface, you're seeing some lighter reds as well, so showing the westerly winds are really powering up at our sort of surface level, where sort of the pressure patterns which dominate our weather at the surface are getting sort of spun up and decided. You can see, though, towards the middle of December, there are few sort of bluer colours showing potentially slower than average westerly winds. So it doesn't look like this coupling up is going to be lasting for a long period of time. Now, this is, of course, these more average or negative anomalies are coming right towards the end of the ensemble run, so it's not guaranteed to come off, but it's not looking completely red at the surface level, which would be happening if we were just going to be having flat westerlies for the next few weeks. So it definitely looks like there's going to be at least a few days, if not maybe 5 days to a week, of these westerly winds from around the 5th, 6th of December all the way to around 12th, 13th of December. Beyond that, we are seeing the potential for it to break apart, but we can't really say too much for certain at this stage. Now, that is shown well on the AO and the NAO. I've gone through this a few times in videos, especially having a look at our winter look-aheads, and you can see we've had quite a few periods of negative AO, which is symbolic of more high pressure over the Arctic than normal. That is a negative AO. A positive is more low pressure than normal, and you can see that's what is forecasted over the next couple of weeks, with a lot of low pressure over the Arctic, with the red GFS ensemble lines all around 2, 3, 4, whereas recently it has been well below since sort of the middle 3rd of November, and that's why we've had colder weather, because more blocking over the Arctic shoves that cold air into the mid-latitudes, i.e. where the UK is. Now, if we have a look at the NAO, which is the same, but for the North Atlantic, in terms of Iceland, it basically compares the low pressure and the high pressure from Iceland to the low pressure Iceland to the high pressure at the Azores. Below zero, it means those low pressure and high pressure is much weaker, therefore not flat westerlies, but positive, it's much stronger, and that is symbolic of flat westerlies. So you can see over most of October, November, and for the end of November, it was well below zero. Brief period for the middle of November where it was above, but that is symbolic of more blocking at the Atlantic, more amplification in the jet stream, and what we've had recently with northerly winds. But it is going positive, or at least neutral to positive. Therefore, more low pressure, more westerly winds, flat pattern. So you can see both in the AO and the NAO, this is now being reflected with these potentially really quite unsettled, stormy westerly winds upcoming over the next few weeks. Now, if we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare. Again, over the next couple of days, it's very similar to the GFS, with potential for some colder conditions through Sunday into Monday. But you can see low pressure pushing through, and then the big tropospheric polar vortex just out over Iceland, giving us flat westerly winds. Now, there's a bit of application there, which may mean we see some cold air, especially in the north, for a period of time, but it's not going to amount to anything. With the cold air tracking across the North Atlantic, it's going to be picking up a lot more moisture, so more showers and more unsettled conditions, but of course it's going to raise the dew points, especially raising the temperature as well at the surface, with warmer sea surface temperatures, especially being early winter. So it's going to be likely, even though the upper airs could be cold at times, towards the surface is most likely to be around average in terms of conditions. So more flat westerlies on the GM, and this pattern is going to be continuing on the ECMWF as well. Now, it hasn't fully updated, it only goes out to 144 hours, but you can see at 144 hours, the tropospheric polar vortex is towards Greenland, ready to give us very, very unsettled conditions throughout the next few weeks. So yeah, not looking great if you're a cold lover through maybe the first half of December. But of course, I do suspect a lot of people would rather it be very unsettled now and the snow risks to return for the festive period around Christmas. I know a lot of people would like to see some winteriness around Christmas. We haven't had any proper winteriness around Christmas for many, many years. We've had over the recent years a few parts seeing some snow, but that's more been marginal. Snow events, a few showers maybe in the north, a few sprinkling, like for example last year I saw a few snowflakes around midnight on Christmas, just from a few passing showers coming in from the east. So we haven't had anything major, so I do think definitely people would much rather see snow around then. So we're going to have to keep an eye really on what happens. It was bound to come. We were bound to see westerly winds throughout the winter. It's very unlikely that we would go the whole winter of seeing amplification in the jet stream and blocking. So, I mean, it's probably best it's coming now instead of around the festive period or in January, when that air to our north is a lot colder and we have a higher chance of seeing colder, snowier conditions. So, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye really what happens with this. But at this stage, it does look like we'll be going a lot stormy. So if you are more of a milder weather lover, in terms of not liking the cold, frosty conditions, the snow, especially over the hills in the north, then the next few weeks looks like it's going to be better for you. There will still be a lot of rain around, probably, especially in the north and the west, and some windy conditions at times. Now, if we do have a look at the GFS Ensembles, you can see well reflected here. Quite cold at the moment, milder sector moving in overnight tonight, and then it turns colder towards the weekend, and that's where we could see some winteriness, especially over the hills and the north over the weekend into Monday, before temperatures rise to around average and maybe drop just below average as we see that low move in. But you can see beyond that, the majority of the runs are now around average, hovering sort of above and below it at times. No massively cold runs, so none of the ensemble members are showing any massive blocking. A few going down to -5 at 850 HPA, but that's most likely to be transient cold sectors. The majority is around 0 to 5 degrees with a lot of precipitation around, as you can see at the bottom. A lot of precipitation spikes, very unsettled conditions. Now, if we have a look at the sea level pressure, you can see some showing some very low, deep lows between sort of the 8th to the 12th of December. Remember, in the south, it's not as likely to be as unsettled as the north, as with this flat westerly flow. The centre of the lows are more likely to be positioned to the north of Scotland. So when we have a Glasgow, look at Glasgow, the sea level pressure will be lower. And you can see right towards the end of the run, there are some symbol of higher pressure, so something similar to what we saw at the end of the GFS operational run, with potentially for high pressure building towards Scandinavia. But we can't draw anything too much from that at this stage, because of course it is right at the end of the run, and really the only reliable sort of time frame for pressure charts and pressure patterns in general is probably 7 to 10 days. Now, if we have a look at Glasgow, you can see a lot lower in terms of pressure. From around 6th, 7th of December all the way to around 13th, 14th, it's remaining around 1,000 millibars or lower, which is low pressure. And some of the ensemble members are dipping it quite low, down to maybe 960 potentially for next week's low pressure system, and beyond that a few spikes going down to 980 or below, which is deep low pressure systems, a lot of rain and wind. Now, if we have a look at the area of THP, temperature and precipitation, you can see actually for Glasgow over the next week is going to be colder than average, but it's not going to be massively colder than average. Maybe a degree or two, maybe some snow over the hills, but low-lying areas, probably no real chance of anything wintry. Longer term, returns to around average or maybe a touch above average. But the big thing from this chart is the amount of precipitation. Massive spikes of rain, with a lot of rain to come over the next few weeks. So it does look like we are going to be seeing a lot of unsettled, windy and rainy conditions, and the potential for some named storms as well. Have a look at those charts. Whenever the tropospheric polar vortex is towards Greenland and Iceland, we can see low pressures really spin up in the jet stream. We could see some named storms over the next few weeks. Now, if we finally finish up having the UK Met Office run, having a look what we could be seeing over the next week, or next 5 days, really. Most of it's actually going to be pretty chilly, as we're having quite a cold air mass over the next few weeks in general. You can see this evening some leading edge snow, but really not mounting too much as more milder air undercuts it. We see some more precipitation in the south, before things turn a little bit more wintry in the north, but again, nothing too substantial. Could be seeing some more snow for Saturday over higher ground as a little feature moves away, maybe even to low-lying areas at a time. And then through Sunday afternoon, we see another weather front move in, and could be some significant snowfall over higher ground in the north. Depending on the exact position of this low, we could be seeing snow further southwards, as we were seeing the operational run for the UKMO run yesterday, but nothing today. For Tuesday, could be seeing again maybe some more frontal snowfall in the north, quite heavy snow, but beyond that, it does look like things are going to be going a lot more milder and unsettled. Now, if we have a look at the 2 metre temperatures, you can see over the course of this evening, temperatures are quite cold in the east, maybe around freezing, but they're going to be rising, of course, in the evening as milder air does undercut. Tomorrow, it's going to be around 7-8 degrees widely in England, Wales, and parts of Ireland. For the north, maybe only 4-5 degrees, and of course, over the tops of the mountains, around freezing, but that's not too unusual for this time of year. Friday night, it's not going to be too chilly, around 4-5 degrees for many, maybe a frost in the north as cold air starts to push back in from the northwest. And Saturday afternoon temperatures around 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 degrees in the far south. Overnight Sunday, we could be seeing again a frost, especially in the north, but nothing too major further southwards. And then early hours of Monday, again, maybe a more widespread frost, but milder air will start. Well, not massive milder air, but sort of a patch of milder air through early hours of Monday, through sort of lunchtime Monday, moves through. But we're all in cold air for the early hours of Tuesday, where another widespread frost is likely. Before Tuesday afternoon, it does look like we're going to be around 7-8 degrees in the south, a bit colder for the north, but over the course of next week, it does look like it's going to be going a lot milder. So it does look like westerly winds are going to be coming in. It's not too unexpected, of course. It is the winter. We do get westerly winds most years, and we've had it pretty much every year recently. So it was always going to happen. Models have flipped quite drastically over the last 2-3 days from the potential of a Scandinavian high to now pretty much breaking that down in a couple of days. So it does look like it's going to be going very unsettled, a bit milder, not massively milder, but a bit milder, and the snow risk does look like it's going to be diminishing from around the 5th, 6th of December onwards. But of course, there is still the potential around. We still have a lot of climate drivers that are favouring colder conditions. So once the stratospheric polar vortex and the tropospheric polar vortex do sort of decouple, which will inevitably happen, and when we do start to see the westerly winds sort of die down, we will likely be seeing snow risk return. It could be as early as maybe the 15th of December, but at least until probably the middle of December, it does look like it's going to be mainly mild and westerly over the next week to 10 days. Beyond that, though, of course, as we head into the festive period, there is always the potential, and I would definitely sacrifice a couple of weeks now of flat westerly, stormy conditions for the potential for seeing some colder and snowy conditions over the festive period. Something we haven't seen for many, many years. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.